Last week, I released this video where I was, let's just say, a bit hard on the squad devs when it came to the state of their recent playtest for the Infantry Combat Overhaul. Now, I'm perfectly fine with buggy playtests since at the end of the day, we're signing up to be the testers and should expect some level of brokenness. But I really was not enjoying the past few playtests due to the sheer amount of bugs that were, in my opinion, game-breaking and just could not allow for proper testing. Some of y'all agreed with me, and a lot of y'all didn't. And you know what? After spending the past 4 days playing the most recent playtest, I think I agree with the majority of y'all now, and I'm more than happy to say that I was wrong in that last video, since at the end of the day, we are just testing, and you know what? It could just be all completely broken. That's what we signed up for. Either way, OWI definitely made me feel like I was wrong in that video by releasing one of the best playtests yet over this past weekend. Now, although the first playtest number 5 was canceled due to client crashing, this new and improved playtest number 5 version 2.0 just ended on Monday. And not only was it incredibly stable, I didn't have any glaring issues with weapons or optics, and the devs even added one more additional day to the playtest. Instead of a Saturday, Sunday, Monday test, we actually had it starting on Friday, so we had a total of 4 sweet days of Infantry Combat Overhaul Squad. Honestly, this was some of the most fun I've had in Squad for quite a while, so let's go over what I liked about it and what I didn't like about it. First off, this is the first real taste we've had of the Middle East Alliance and the US Marine Corps, and the biggest question mark I had going into this test was how the G3 was going to handle. If you were to just go to the training range and play around with this weapon platform, you'd see that it has a lot of kick, and it should because it fires the 7.62x51 round instead of 5.56. It's a big boy round, but I do think this current iteration has a bit too much kick for players. If we compare the G3 to the M27 IAR, which was also just added with the USMC, it seems like this M27 is borderline OP with how good it is compared to the MEA. Although you can use this weapon bipoded as it's intended to be for auto riflemen, even just standing and tap firing the M27 is really nice and so much more accurate than the G3. Recoil is very minimal, and when you throw in the bipod, it's just game over. And as I'm saying this, I do want to point out that the devs themselves state that this current M27 recoil is a work in progress. So I do hope it gets turned up quite a bit, because if it goes up against the G3, it really is just no contest. But what's funny is that you actually don't even have to compare the G3 to the M27 to see how bad the recoil is. You can actually just compare the G3 to the G3. On the left is this newly implemented ICO G3, and on the right is the current G3 that is in the game right now on Live Squad. The difference, as you can see, is staggering. The average squad player has a difficult enough time using the G3, and this added recoil will make the average infantry fight lopsided in favor of whoever is fighting MEA. In an actual game, even though I knew how the recoil pattern worked and I could adjust, I still found myself not being able to land longer range shots in time. Now, there might be a little bit of skill issue here, I will admit that, but it just feels way too difficult to down players compared to any of the other weapons, and I feel like I was just at a constant disadvantage despite knowing I could not only do more damage, but also do more suppression. It's also a little funny when you compare this recoil to the MG3, which also fires that same 7.62 round, but nearly twice as fast. Going full auto with the G3 has you looking at the sky almost immediately. It's only a 20 round mag, and I feel like half of them are going up into the roof above me. But when I use the MG3, it's actually much more manageable, and this whole thing just feels backwards. Now, as a whole, the visuals of the MEA are great. The optics were fine. The suppression was obviously effective since you were firing a heavier round, and I enjoyed using things like the bipoded G3 with the auto rifleman kit, but the G3 as a whole is just way too hard to use. I think if we were to have it toned down just a little bit, more like how it is in the real game right now, it would be in a much better place, and the MEA would be much more fun to play. Now, aside from the G3, I thought the general feel of all of the weapons, I played USMC, MEA, Canada, Russia, and US, they were all good. The blur around the scopes didn't make me motion sick. The optics felt like they were appropriately sized. Stamina regen felt like it was in a nice spot, and the player movement was good. I still have a few issues going from moving to ADS, and I feel like that initial shakiness stickiness is a bit stronger than I liked, even when I hold shift and try to hold my breath to steady, but that also might just be something that I need to get used to. I will say that the iron sights or red dots definitely felt much more effective in close quarters, and they should. There were times where I would run into someone and I could just tell that they didn't have that long range optic equipped due to their quick and accurate fire. In that firefight, I might die, but I felt as if that was fair. I was relying on inaccurate hip fire, and they drew their weapon up to look through their iron sight or red dot, and this is definitely how it should be, and I'm just really glad it felt like it was working as intended. All of this combined for a really fun experience for urban combat, and during a game of Al-Basra, I found that the city fighting just felt different. Like, it felt good. Typically in downtown Al-Basra, you're literally just getting one tap between windows. Now, obviously this still happened from time to time, but most of the fights actually were longer and more drawn out as players would be quickly running around, firing a couple of shots, suppressing each other, and then repositioning. I might not have won every engagement, but the experience of that firefight was fun, and it was drawn out long enough to allow for friendlies to also do some supporting things like simply reinforcing my position or even moving up and trying to flank them in the buildings and the floors below. I absolutely love the way combat works in Squad now, and I actually really enjoy playing infantry again. Additionally, there were a few new UI changes that removed friendly name tags if the player was on the other side of a wall or obstacle, and name tags, observation marks, and other map markers will now disappear off of your screen when you're ADS'd with a picture-in-picture scope. These two changes made it much more difficult to tell who you were looking at longer range, since you would now have to only rely on uniform identification or verify those friendlies on the map. Now, unfortunately, I did get a few TKs, but I think as a whole, this is an amazing change. It'll take some getting used to, but it made for a really clean UI experience during firefights, and it felt realistic since that blue name wouldn't just pop up when I was staring at a wall. And lastly, although suppression hasn't changed, I do want to reiterate just how good the explosive suppression effects are now. Suppression just feels like a great tool, but mortars and artillery are just so crazy oppressive. Mortars are incredibly important in any game of Squad, but with the Infantry Combat Overhaul, they just make you want to leave the area when you're getting hit by them. And if you're also being shot at while being hit by these mortars, you're pretty much a sitting duck because you have no idea where to look. The kind of chaos and frantic movement and trying to get under cover, all of these feelings are expressed through the field of view and suppression effects, and I just really think that the devs have done a fantastic job with this. Now, I will say, as much as I liked everything that I played, there still was one huge problem that I noticed throughout the testing, and that, unfortunately, was performance. When ADSing, I felt like I would drop at a minimum of 20 FPS, and there were many times during the testing where I was around 30 or 40 FPS max. Now, I do think that these builds are not as optimized as they will be when it comes to release, but I would be just straight lying if I said that I think the optimization was good, because it really wasn't. Not at all. I still had fun, I still loved the games, but I just had way too tough of a time running it for the most part. If I'm being brutally honest, this test is actually making me pull the trigger on finally upgrading my PC. And I have a 2070 Super, and I think it's held up quite well, but I really don't want to worry about these problems anymore if I just want to play Squad. But that's about it. I think I was a little too hard on the devs last go around, and I think that they've definitely proved me wrong with this most recent playtest. I'm more than happy accepting defeat than that I was wrong in that last video, since I just had way too much fun over this past weekend playing this overhaul. But what do you guys think? Is it okay to have a weapon like the G3 that is just so hard to use? Does the suppression feel like it's finally in the perfect spot? And are you worried at all about this optimization and performance, or do you think it will be fixed by release? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. But that's it for me. Until next time, peace.